The interviews that the outside world wanted were all blocked by the public relations department. Yi Zisoo did not want to be disturbed. She did not mind the academic-related ones, but those relating to commercial matters were unnecessary. OMG had survived their period of crisis and there would be professionals following up and handling the promotional work. What she needed to do was improve the mech. The performance of the mech in CT was relatively perfect. However, in reality, there would be errors in the operation of the mech. The facts showed that the Wind God mech had very important promotional significance. What they needed to do now was further strengthen its success rate in actual combat. The advancement of OMG was not only in the rise of their stock prices. Many related industries were suddenly interested in this new entrance to the military industry. Suppliers and distributors were all exhibiting a strong interest in this company. If it was in the past, these other parties might not even have the time to entertain OMG when they took the initiative to contact them. Now it was the opposite. These parties had to book appointments and wait in the queue. Those with a little bit of foresight would know that this mech would definitely be the best competitor for the best design of the year. If they waited until the designer was famous before deciding to follow up, the conditions to do so would be more difficult. Many companies in related industries also sent their congratulations. The reputation of the Yi family in the Earth region, especially in the Asian business community, was booming. This showed that Earth too could be innovative with mech design, instead of merely producing copies of established ones. The management of OMG had launched just this one style of futuristic super mech, but they would not be mass-producing the Wind God, at least not for now. They were mainly pushing the sales of the agricultural-type mecha from the Hercules series and targeted the Bata Type 5 market. But this was not the main point. Many places would be interested just based on the techniques displayed by Wind God. Of course, it was simply a matter of time for the Wind God to enter the market. OMG was no longer in a hurry. Yi Zisoo was almost always surrounded by attention while walking through campus. It was the same in the past, but it was never as passionate as now. In the past, when people looked at her, it was more because of her appearance. Now, there was envy and worship. Even though she did not want the publicity, this incident was still trending. The front page of the school webpage definitely had the picture of this awesome school belle. When beauty, wisdom, and wealth were combined into one, it produced an aura of glory. It was impossible to remain low-key even if she did not want to be noticed. Luckily, Yi Zisoo was used to this type of life since a young age, so she was able to remain calm. Everyone had a stage of adolescence and rebellion. In middle school, when she was playing with Yu Jing, Zisoo was prideful and wished that she would forever remain the center of attention. However, the more time she spent with Wang Zheng, the more she felt like this type of thinking was superficial. Everyone should pursue their goals in life. This type of superficial pride would not be lasting, and in the end, she would just become more and more empty. This bad guy, Wang Zheng, was changing the people around him. Yi Zisoo wanted to share her experiences with him so badly, but now he was already embarking on his journey. The second phase of IG was of great significance. As a military school, it was useless to perform well in other areas. Ares College could not possibly be changed into the God of Wealth College. Zisoo knew that she could only cheer for him silently. "Senior, be my girlfriend." An infatuated man suddenly appeared at the road, carrying a large bouquet of fresh flowers. These juniors nowadays were all aggressive, young, and daring. Besides, if one liked someone, one should express it directly. Yi Zisoo smiled slightly. "Sorry, I'm not interested in kids." "Zisoo, please consider me." A Year 4 senior kicked away the Year 1 junior. This guy, he actually dared to compete for his senior's property. Was he asking to die? Yi Zisoo did not know whether to laugh or cry. What was all this? Luckily, May had arrived, chased away this group of flies, and pulled Yi Zisoo away. "My dear, you are too popular now. Tisk tisk, if I was a man, I would definitely pursue you too," May laughed. "Stop teasing me. What these juniors are doing is annoying. This is the price of fame. Looks like this level of popularity will last for some time. Try to bear with it." "Where's Qingqing?" Zhang Runan is not here, so she's the acting president and is busy with club activities. She needs to train the newcomers. "You should stop spending all day designing. Come and play at my drama club." "I'm not interested in that, but I'm interested in learning how to write music, Yizisu said. Ah, that's great. You can join the music club. I am very familiar with the president of the music club. He's very handsome. Do you want me to introduce him to you? You don't think about these kinds of things all day. We're young, we should have dreams and goals. We cannot just waste our lives. Yizisu laughed. She felt that May was more suitable to be a matchmaker. Tisk, you guys have all been brainwashed by that guy, Wang Zheng. My Xiaoshu as well, always busy with this or that. Recently, he actually started to study seriously. May might have been teasing her, but pride filled her eyes. The better little fortune star was, the more it proved that her judgment was good. After she confirmed that her boyfriend was Yan Xiaoshu, her status in the family rose immediately. Even though it may be a little superficial, her family no longer controlled her. Yizisu smiled. You think that everyone is as lucky as you? Come on, dear, let's go. There is green grass everywhere. Why love just that one strand of grass? May linked arms with Yizisu and smiled. Yan Xiaoshu actually did not like to study. From a young age, he was one who chose to copy homework instead. The thing he hated most was to read, but there was one exception. When he felt that there was a need, and when he desired for certain knowledge, Yan Xiaoshu could focus very easily. He was too interested in the ever-changing situation of the business world. The recent business exchange increased Little Fortune Star's assets by a few folds. It was so intriguing, like a magic trick. When wealth accumulated to a certain extent, they could no longer depend on being frugal to slowly raise their fortunes. That was all just to deceive children that saving alone could make one wealthy. What they were playing with was capital and investments. What they looked for were opportunities. In this aspect, he lacked severely, both in studies and in understanding, especially with regards to successful case studies of business magnates. On this, he was the same as Wang Zheng. They enjoyed the process. Wang Zheng enjoyed the process of becoming a mech warrior, and he enjoyed the process of becoming super wealthy, especially when it was success based on his own planning. One day, perhaps what he did could also become a successful case study for his business school. Once he thought of this, Tyrant Su could not hold back a shudder. This was life. Solon was once again the center of attention. He had created a miracle in the CT circle. He had taken to his position not long ago, and the level of action in the usually lackluster solar system region had soared. Sales had never been better. The Earth region, lauded as the stingiest region, exploded with great enthusiasm. More than 20 million Wind God mecha had been sold in just 3 days. Every CT player had the desire to show off. Whether they played the mech or not was one thing. However, whether they wanted to show off their wealth or not was a matter of determination. Once they thought of the almost godly displacement abilities and the amazing operation that they could use to play with their opponents until they were dizzy, they could no longer control their desire to try. Not only that, the Earth region had finally started to contribute their finances to the company. In the CT circle, it had always been Aslan, Arbiter, and these few big empires that had the best sales. Mecha from the solar system were usually sold internally, very few were exported. And this wind god had actually received more than 1 million orders. Solon believed that this was only the beginning. With the promotion of this video of 1 vs 100, there would definitely be more people who would want to try the wind god. He had gambled on this without thinking it through. There really was no guarantee this time. He simply believed in Skeleton, and in the end he had actually yielded great results. Solon felt a little embarrassed. This had no relationship to his capabilities at all. To use a colloquial phrase, he had won without doing anything. The shiny silver skin of the wind god also sold more than 5 million units. This skin cost about the same as an entire mech. It was also one of CT's important sources of profits. Players would purchase these decorations only if they really liked a certain mech. He had earned another round of fortune without having to use his brain. This was awesome. Additionally, Skeleton disappeared again. This was nothing special. It was likely that he would not appear easily anymore. But Solon was not an idiot. He could sense that there was a good relationship between Skeleton and OMG. As long as he tended to OMG's projects carefully, there would be chances of Skeleton appearing again in the future. Wang Zheng, Zhang Shan, Meng Tian, and Zhang Runan had already embarked on their journey towards the IG training grounds after receiving the IG notification via Skylink. The first round of the second part of IG would be carried out at Gil Town in the Sahara Desert of Earth's Africa region. After governance and geographical transformation, the original Sahara Desert of more than 8 million square kilometers had shrunk to 4 million square kilometers, but it remained the largest desert on Earth, a hostile place for foreigners. The Asian region did not have a direct flight that reached Gil Town in the Sahara. They could only transfer at the Pearl of the Sahara Desert, Yesan City. Before leaving, the principal treated Wang Zheng and his group to a meal at the best hotel in the capital. Just do your best. Let others remember you. Our Aries College is also a famous school with a few hundred years of history. Ji Yute was drunk and had said a lot. He patted Wang Zheng and the other 3 members on the shoulder. He was putting a lot of hope on them. The burden may be heavy, but I believe in you guys. On the second day, Wang Zheng and his group headed to Yesan at Sahara. They were very surprised that they had actually traveled in a first-class cabin. This is all I can do. Ji Yute and Zhou Mu sent them off at the departure gate. The help that they could provide was limited. Some pressure could only be handled by Wang Zheng and his group themselves. Yesan, the Pearl of the Sahara. Green coconut trees were scattered around the city. Water drawn from deep underground reservoirs nourished all this vegetation, preventing the sands from expanding further. Even though this was the desert, the unique scenery and massive investments made this place one of the most famous and popular tourist spots on Earth. It was also a favorite hangout spot of the rich. When they were exiting Yesan's airport, holograms appeared one after another. These were the city's image cards. Welcome to the Miracle Oasis, Yesan. Here, you can find all you need. Yesan is the address for everything. In this city, you could not see a single grain of sand. It was unusually clean and tidy, with green trees flourishing. There were bright flowers everywhere and there was a humidity control machine every 500 meters. These controlled the entire city's humidity to keep it at an optimal level for human bodies. In the fragrant air and moving on the roads were all kinds of luxury cars. What is that? Did I see wrongly? Zhang Shan started shouting. From the back seat of a luxury car, a huge tiger head popped out. It was enjoying the cool wind brought by the speed of the car. When he turned his head, he saw a majestic lion sitting on the passenger seat of another sports car. This is not strange. This is Yesan, the heaven for the rich to show off, Meng Tian said lightly. Other rich people would have expensive cats and famous dogs as pets. Yesan citizens kept highly endangered and exotic beasts as pets. Those who put in a little effort would get animals that were produced naturally and not by gene reproduction. As they chatted, more than 10 people walked out from the VIP tunnel at the other side of the airfield. The few people walking in front smiled immediately when they saw Wang Zheng and his group and strode towards them. Sister Runan, haha, what a coincidence. This is a meeting from 1,000 miles brought about by fate. The people approaching them were Yuan Yi and his group from Europa. They did not expect to bump into the people they wanted to meet the most upon landing. Yuan Yi's gaze was mostly on Zhang Runan. Obviously, the period of one holiday did not dampen his enthusiasm for wooing Zhang Runan. To this, Zhang Shan could only say that he admired his enthusiasm. Europa citizens did have a unique taste. Wang Zheng smiled. Let's walk together. Zhang Runan's eyes showed extreme dissatisfaction. It was obvious that she did not want to. Brother Shan, is the Skylink number that you gave me a fake or real one? I called so many times, but none went through. Yuan Yi pulled Zhang Shan aside. He was asking about Zhang Runan's Skylink. Don't you know how to change a Skylink to call? Your number was blocked by Runan long ago. Zhang Shan patted Yuan Yi's shoulders. Wooing a girl was easy, but wooing Runan was not. Yuan Yi should cherish this opportunity he had as Zhang Shan was willing to help him out here and there. Yuan Yi was stunned. His number was blocked. That was so cold-hearted. But he liked her even more. A woman with such personality was rare even in the Mu Federation, and he liked this type of girl. Zhang Shan very quickly became part of the Europa trio. Zhang Shan was a person who talked fast. Very quickly, he purposely led the topic to Ability X. Yes, he could finally stand tall, and he could not wait to let the whole world know. Upon hearing that Zhang Shan had awakened his ability X, the trio, Dana, Conrad, and Wyman, smiled at the same time. They were not arrogant, and they shared some of their experiences. Your frame of mind is very important at the initial stage of awakening the ability. You must be cautious against rushing your progress. Everything is just a matter of time. Of course, you cannot slack in your training. Do not think that training is not effective. It is like fishing for gold in a big river, you will gain results eventually. Yuan Yi's eyes widened. **T, even you have awakened an ability? Haha, of course. Look at who I am. Such a good body, such talent, such potential. In the future, I will definitely become a general, no, an admiral. Here, we will omit about 500 words of his boasting. Once the topic was opened, Zhang Shan could not wait for the whole world to praise him. No one knew whether to laugh or cry. They had seen arrogant people, but Zhang Shan was on a different level. TCH, don't irritate me anymore. How do we get to Gill Town? This is your territory. I will leave the travel arrangements up to you guys. Wang Zheng smiled. This is our first time here as well. I heard that there is only one flight per week. If we are lucky, we can make it. Gill was an extremely small desert town. There were only about a few dozen families there. Life there was almost completely isolated from the rest of the world. Upon checking at the information counter of the long-distance passenger terminal, they found out that the flight to Gill Town for this week would be leaving in 3 days. 3 days? Are there any other ways? Of course. You could also rent the small, 4-seater X-64 flying shuttle. Depending on the weather, you could get there in about 4 hours. The employee at the terminal smiled and introduced the alternative transportation. This sounds good. How do we rent one? Yuan Yi nodded. It will be 2 shuttles for 8 people. This was common in their hometown. The deposit for each X-64 shuttle is $1.5 million. It will be 1 million Milky Way dollars for each hour. In the event of sandstorms, we will have to increase the fees by 10%. Passengers will also have to pay for 5% of the maintenance fee if there is any accidental wear and tear. Yuan Yi stared blankly at the person who was explaining the rental conditions. What is this highway robbery? Sorry, sir, what we have here is already a very fair official price. You can go ask at the black market over there. The lowest price is double the official price. And now we only have one X-64 left. May I know if you guys will be renting it? The employee maintained his smile, but his eyes showed that he did not care if they rented the shuttle or not. He did not lack customers. Damn, Earth was so sinister. Wang Zheng smiled. Are there any other ways to reach Gill Town? The employee was still quite professional, so he said smilingly, if you are not in a hurry, you may choose to rent camels. Their desert genes are strengthened. They are cheap and your safety is guaranteed. At the same time, you can have the full experience of desert life. We are running a little tight on time. Do you have any desert jeeps? Wang Zheng interrupted the employee's sales pitch and requested directly. Of course, 3,000 Milky Way dollars for 1 day. It is quite worth it. You do not need to sell it. We will take the desert jeeps. 2 of them. Is there any problem? Yes, I will prepare them for you immediately. Soon, 2 desert jeeps were rolled out. They were a little old, but they came fully equipped with desert travel installations, GPS, and a set of field supplies including water, food, and survival resources like tents packed in every jeep. You could see from the dark-skinned face of the employee from before that he was a little red with embarrassment. I'm really sorry. Because of promotional activities recently, the demand for these is extremely high. These are the last 2 desert jeeps. The model may be a little old, but we have just done maintenance on them last month. There should be no problems in their functions. If you don't mind them, I can give you a Friends of Staff discount, 2,100 Milky Way dollars for 1 day. Wang Zheng checked the jeeps. With his experience from repairing mecha at OMG, he grasped the status of the 2 jeeps very quickly. No problem, we can leave now. Are we not going to around? Yuan Yi was stunned. They had just landed and had not had the time to tour around this city that was the pearl of the desert. Time is money, my friend. Zhang Shan patted Yuan Yi and sat in the jeep driven by Dana's trio. Yuan Yi quickly responded and immediately sat right beside Zhang Runnen. Zhang Runnen glanced at him. Go in the back. No other's words were needed to exude pressure on him. Yuan Yi sheepishly changed to a back seat. The sounds of jeeps rumbled. The two jeeps drove towards the desert. Everyone was excited about the journey. It was not common to have this kind of unique desert experience. It was difficult to have such an opportunity to enjoy freedom like this, as the group had never experienced life in a desert, and this scenery was even more refreshing for Yuan Yi and his group. Various topics were brought up continuously. Everyone took turns to drive. It was very exciting to drive through the sand dunes too. Especially with these jeeps with old-fashioned wheels, the feel of friction was quite enjoyable. Wang Zheng did not drive for long before Zhang Shan switched with him. At this moment, his Skylink rang. Surprisingly, it was Lin Weiyan. Brother Wang Zheng, how are you? I have a new single coming out again. You must remember to listen to it. Okay. Weiyan's sweet voice came out from the Skylink. Wang Zheng smiled knowingly. Don't worry, I will definitely support you. Are you doing well? Lin Weiyan was in her room. It was current nighttime on Aslan. With me here, everything is okay. I am standing at your side. She is very busy now. But cousin is planning a surprise for you. You can look forward to it. The two of them chatted for a while. Wang Zheng told her about his status in IG. Weiyan was obviously asking about this for Aina. After Aina's coming-of-age ceremony, she was almost always busy with the affairs of the empire every day. On top of that, she still had her studies, so she was not as free as Weiyan. Wang Zheng knew that Aina was also a determined person. She would be a good princess, a good queen. Wang Zheng, a girl? Who? It's too bad she's not loud, we can't hear clearly. Yuan Yi winked and laughed. Haha, a friend. Girlfriend or a female friend? Tisk, tisk. Why is it that no one cares for me? Yuan Yi said to Zhang Runan. Nah, you don't have to worry about Wang Zheng. This guy is like some beauty killer, Zhang Shan said. Shut up and drive properly. This guy was the sort that would die if he stopped gossiping. Meng Tian was expressionless. Hearing from Wang Zheng's tone, she knew that it was not Yi Zhisu. Perhaps it was that other girl, Xiao Shi. If she really liked him, why was she not by Wang Zheng's side? Was Aslan that great? On the other side, Weiyan was in high spirits. Angela shrugged helplessly. The response for Weiyan's new single was actually average and not as good as her previous works. Weiyan was actually feeling a little down, but after the call, she returned to normal. Wang Zheng is participating in IG. As long as he passes, he will have the chance to come to Aslan and meet Big Sister. Angela smiled bitterly. Your Highness, you really do not need to involve yourself in their relationship. There's no chance it will work out. No one who cared about their relationship right now, hence there were no problems. Once the royal family found out, they would definitely put a stop to this. They would not even need to let the princess know if they disposed of Wang Zheng. It was just that she really did not want to taint Weiyan's ears by telling her these truths. Angela, I really feel that brother Wang Zheng is very courageous and he is also very brilliant. He is very suitable for sister. Angela knew that the princess was definitely thinking of the time Wang Zheng saved her on Mars. Actually, in Aslan, there were people who would be willing to sacrifice their lives for the princess everywhere. It was nothing. Even if it was herself, in times of need, she could sacrifice everything for Weiyan. This was her life. To her, Wang Zheng's heroic acts were nothing. Besides, it was not as though he really had sacrificed his life, he only took a blow. There was one point where Angela had guessed wrongly. While Wang Zheng's heroic act of saving her did influence Weiyan, the impact was not as great as she imagined. Lin Weiyan's good impression of Wang Zheng was not because of this. It was the first time she made a mistake and no one criticized her for it. She even felt like they had connected. In Lin Weiyan's life, this was the first time someone was willing to do bad things together with her. There was a sense of camaraderie. Hence, she wanted to do something for her friend and was determined to help Wang Zheng in this relationship. There were a few routes to go from Yesan to Gil Town. The fastest was a 2 days, 1 night travel. The old model of desert jeeps only had radios that played the programs from local music stations. At first there was a weak signal, but as they moved deeper into the desert, the signal became full of static and they had to turn the radios off. The signal for their Skylinks gradually weakened too. In the quiet desert, there were only the roaring sounds of two desert jeep engines. The pavement had disappeared and there was nothing but sand everywhere. Identical sand dunes filled their eyes. They had already activated the desert travel equipment on the jeeps. The giant wheels on the sand allowed them to travel as though they were on the road. After driving over a sand dune, another identical sand dune appeared. This process repeated constantly. Psychologically, it felt as though they had lost their way and were driving in circles around the same place. Only the GPS persuaded everyone to believe that they were moving towards their goal. At noon, the hottest time, the desert jeep stopped behind a sand dune. When they opened the covers of the desert jeeps, on top of giving some shade, the solar panels on top could absorb the sunlight and convert it into streams of cool wind, allowing them to hide a bit from the hot sun. When they opened the food bags, everyone started to drink a lot of water to replenish their fluids. In places such as the desert, the first hour was filled with curiosity, but people would get tired of it very quickly. Earth's desert is a little terrifying. There is a small star near my hometown. It is also a desert, but not like this, all filled with sand. Yuan Yi shook his head. A never-ending sand sea, temperatures hot enough to cook eggs, a heat that irritated people, and everywhere they looked was sand that looked identical. Their brains were turning into paste. Yuan Yi, do you have any beauties there to introduce me to? Don't keep boasting about how popular you are. You need to share some good stuff. That's brotherhood. When Zhang Shan was really bored, his mind easily wandered in that direction. Using his words, women were men's motivation. No matter what difficulties he encountered, as long as he thought of beauties, he could find the solution. Of course. Where we're from, the beauties are not shy like you earthlings. As long as both parties share a connection, haha. You understand what I'm saying. Yuan Yi looked at Zhang Runan immediately. There was a sense of reservation that was unlike Europa's style in his coarse words. Do you have photos? If you have the chance, you must introduce some to me. Zhang Shan's eyes were shining. He wanted to see for himself what those beauties were like. Introducing is fine, but whether you like them or not, or whether you can handle them or not, that depends on your own charisma. I'm not boasting. At Europa, I'm considered a hot guy in school. Yuan Yi was very generous. Come, I'll let you take a look at our school beauty. Yuan Yi was very enthusiastic. I sent you a photo package. It has all the beauties in our model school. Let me know who you like and I'll introduce you to them when there's signal for Skylink. They are all curious about Earth. It's also considered quite fashionable to have an alien boyfriend. Wang Zheng, do you want in? Wang Zheng smiled. No thanks. Zhang Shan received the photo package and immediately understood why Yuan Yi kept pursuing Runan. God, the whole country's sense of beauty was seriously warped. How were these beauties from a model school? Every single one of them looked so fierce. They were like Runan, but in comparison, even Runan actually had a sense of softness and delicateness. Ha, ha ha, I was just making conversation, don't take it seriously, please don't take it seriously. Zhang Shan was sweating. He desperately tried to dispel Yuan Yi's enthusiasm to make for him. This was definitely a school for dinosaurs. With his size, once he entered, he would never be able to get out. Yuan Yi also did not mind. He shrugged his shoulders and found a new topic to chat about. The other trio, Song Li, Zhao Wanqin, and Ku Chouji, were all very interested in Zhang Shan's ability. Brother Shan, what is your ability? Is it very cool? Zhang Shan was relieved to the point that he felt grateful to God. Yes, someone had finally asked. Acting cool was like this. You could never take the initiative to talk about it. The most satisfying part was having someone else ask. However, no one had given him the satisfaction so far, and it made him feel like dying as he was trying to hold it in. Haha, my ability has no explanation, it definitely will surprise everyone. Just wait and see. I'm the main fighter for Ares College for the second phase. Definitely a trump card. **T, is it that great? Just what is it? Yuan Yi asked curiously. After a full day of torture, Zhang Shan had lost hope in finding people in the desert. When he finally reached his destination, he saw soldiers taking the identification documents of 7 people at the gate. Welcome to Gil Base. Everyone, this way please. Please only move within the allowed area. You may also leave the base, But please note that 2200 is the night curfew of the camp. This is the dormitory for Ares College. Let us meet at the main hall at 1600. The Europa quarters are on the other side. This way please. A soldier, the escort for Wang Zheng and company, allocated them to their living quarters after a quick introduction of the rules of the base and then promptly departed. The standard arrangement for the dorm was similar to that of an elite team. There were 6 single bedrooms as well as a living room and a bathroom. Zhang Shan cheered, bath time. After a dusty journey, a shower was more enjoyable than ever. Ladies first. Zhang Runan extended her hand, immediately dragging Zhang Shan back, and occupied a bathroom. Meng Tian occupied the other washroom. At times, women's privileges were still particularly important. Mountain Maiden, you should fight for your rights. Be more assertive, Wang Zheng laughed. Oh, please, it is only a matter of time before you call me Brother Shan. Such a nickname, Mountain Maiden, will bring a lifetime of pain. After the 4 people showered, at 15:30, after taking a look at the area around the base, they proceeded to meet in the main hall. There were already many people gathered in the main hall. Among the group of people, there was a particular individual who was particularly attention-grabbing. She was wearing the summer military uniform of Mars and had a pair of gorgeous, slender legs. Her skin color approximated the color of wheat. She looked youthful and energetic, wearing a body-hugging dress that made her look not only seductive but also dangerous. As Wang Zheng entered, people glossed over him. Their attention was instead drawn to Zhang Runan. Everyone made insipid attempts at greetings. Ares College's performance at the first stage was fairly outstanding and hence invited competition. Numerous unfriendly gazes were directed at them. In this first phase, everyone was still testing the waters. Now that the second phase had begun, the real unforgiving competition had started. At this stage, no one dared to take unnecessary risks. When the Moon's Achilles, Mars' Lai Xin, and Earth's Lear all stepped up, it was certain that a leader would emerge from the 3 of them. Even the position of the assistant leader was particularly contentious. Ares College was just too weak compared to them. The second phase naturally became a central highlight as it was a litmus test for not only one's ambitions but also friendships. There was something crucial about this. At the second stage, one had to choose who to follow. There were 5 captains, and among them, there was only one real leader. Only by following the real leader could one emerge victories. Given that no more than 12 people would get to go to Aslan, once one followed the wrong person, even if they performed extremely well, they would be disqualified. Hence, the captains had the greatest power as they would choose who would go with them. The first phase was fun and exciting, but the second phase was serious. One's ability to work as a team was extremely important. The status difference between one who went to Aslan and one who had to leave IG was completely different. One would be able to enter the military after this competition, and this competition would affect their future results in the military. At the same time, being able to attain the qualifications to represent the solar system was truly the greatest honor. At this point, everyone did well in the field of intelligence, regardless of whether it was spying on the opponents or keeping one's own secrets. Relative to others, Ares College was unguarded since everyone already knew pretty much everything about them. They had 4 mecha in total, and they employed the most basic systems. Although their training hours each day were long, the mecha were too restrictive in combat. Just a slight knock in the mecha would stop working to prevent excessive damage to it. This was essentially a joke. It was too pathetic to be considered a weapon for war. At the stage, even if you hold back, Ares College will definitely be eliminated. That is not certain. At this stage, they are too selective. Perhaps if Meng Tian and Zhang Runan use their true strength, they might be able to stay. Perhaps, but it is just 2 of them. Mountain Maiden will. Although Wang Zheng is pretty good, it is a shame that he is too jumpy. Besides, he does not possess an ability X. It is too difficult to struggle to be a central power. Only by conserving our strength can we emerge victorious against the rest. Regarding personal assessments, there actually were people who had a good impression of Wang Zheng. It was a shame that in the survival of the fittest, good impressions meant nothing. On top of that, there was a rumor that Wang Zheng had offended the 5 captains. At this point, it was perhaps better to keep a distance from Wang Zheng. Lai Guang, who was slightly interested in the discussion around him, suddenly rose and walked towards Wang Zheng. In that moment, everyone in the main hall quietened down. Lai Xin was convinced by the rumor regarding Wang Zheng. Although it was Lai Guang's first appearance, his reputation preceded him. Everyone knew who he was. Lai Xin would not take action against Wang Zheng. However, the same cannot be said given Lai Guang's terrible temper. Was he going to stir trouble? Would an exciting drama ensue? Wang Zheng, long time no see. Lai Guang took the initiative to greet Wang Zheng with a high five. Clap. Wang Zheng laughed and returned the greeting with Lai Guang. Let me introduce these people, Zhang Shan, Zhang Runan, Meng Tian. Nice to meet you, Wang Zheng, can't you be a good human being? I just heard that you offended this person and that person. Your behavior is even worse than someone like me, and I often deal in underhanded means. Lai Guang laughed. He was indeed a timely reinforcement for Lai Xin, specially selected to join the training at this point. Every general had some special authority to nurture their soldiers as well as to insert sufficiently capable individuals into the teams. However, no one would speak like Lai Guang. Nevertheless, this made Lai Guang more relatable and evidently showed how he was trying to rope in Wang Zheng and the other people from Aries. Wang Zheng laughed. Haha, I have heard of this. Please help me ask Lai Xin how I offended her. Does refusing to give up Zhang Runan count? Nope, it doesn't. Haha, Zhang Runan, after Wang Zheng dies, I hope you will consider coming to Mars. Mars will never let you down. Lai Guang laughed loudly. Zhang Runan clearly was not interested. Lai Guang found the charm of such women worthless. Lai Guang laughed. He was only here to offer a greeting. After nodding, he immediately left. In the main hall, people did not see the dramatic scene they expected. Some were disappointed. However, upon some reflection, Mars acquiring Zhang Runan was a given. It was only to be expected. However, precisely so, if Wang Zheng refused to let Zhang Runan go, this might have offended Lai Xin. The team from the moon appeared. The 8 stars of the moon surrounded and defended Achilles. This was an imposing presence. Lai Xin stole some glances at the 8 stars of the moon before directing her attention onto Achilles. Their eyes met briefly. On this vacation, no one had time to waste. Athos is back. Just like Lai Guang, the revival of the moon's name rests on his shoulders. The Mars group was particularly concerned about the 8 stars as they were their biggest competitors. Elimination was cruel. However, sometimes the strong fell because of accidents. The 3 generals all possessed a precious revival card that could be used to keep a particular individual that had been eliminated to continue their training. This allowed the 3 generals to put their reputations on the line in exchange for an opportunity. Clearly, the moon had used their opportunity on Athos. It was used to maintain the integrity of the team from the moon. The strength of the 8 was greater than the sum of their parts. Based on the analysis of others, wanting to squeeze into the name list of the IG main contest required a competent leader. Achilles was very strong, but he already had a scarily strong team of 8 stars. Apart from Achilles, there were 4 other names left that were equally hard to decide on. People knew that the sun god had extremely high expectations. Even if you volunteered yourself, you might not be accepted by them. At this time, Rastin brought his team from the Karagel Republic. They approached the Mars group. Their attitude was clear. He was to ally with Lai Xin. Since they were unable to beat them, they would join them. If Achilles and Lear did not possess corresponding power, they would be forced to join Mars or drop out of the IG main competition. In the main hall, everyone's attention was drawn to this scene. They all understood but never expected that such a day would come so soon. Rastin laughed as he exchanged a few words with Lai Xin. His attention shifted as he approached Wang Zheng. I just heard some news about how you offended me. Do you want to buy me a meal to make up for it? Haha, good luck. I will not be kind. Wang Zheng laughed. Yes, same to you. From their previous meeting, Rastin already knew that Wang Zheng did not have the intention to join Lai Xin. If he wanted to, he would have expressed it immediately. Given the current situation, without an alliance, being eliminated was just a matter of time. At exactly 1600, a soldier shouted with a loud and imposing voice, Meng Ao is here, rise. Everyone in the main hall rose in unison. Meng Ao, one of the 3 leaders of the Allied forces, was practically as influential as a god on Earth. After a minute, Meng Ao walked in from the gates. "Greetings." Meng Ao waved his hands and returned a military greeting. "All right, everyone, take a seat. The first round of the second phase will be conducted by me. The military has high expectations of you, but there is no need to worry. I am just here to spectate." Everyone looks like they are in high spirits. This is good. I hope that everyone will maintain this morale even when training begins. After Meng Ao's rousing speech, he pointed at the tough-looking soldier and said, "This is Officer Chu Si. He will be responsible for your general training on Earth. Henceforth, he will be the conducting officer taking charge." Officer Chu Si had the face of death. He had the eyes of the killer. Compared to Suyan's smiley face, this man had an entirely different aura. "From this point on, I will be responsible for everything you do. Everything I say is an order. Here, orders must be carried out. I do not care about where you come from or what your background is like. Do not come and tell me who you are or who your family members are. In my eyes, you are all tiny birds who have never seen what the world is like. More accurately, you are all garbage going through reformation. Garbage only needs to know one thing: obey, obey, and obey. Do you understand?" Chu Si was very direct. He had always been stern in speech. Given how he was verbally abusive, many people's faces immediately changed. After all, they were all elites from their respective countries and were not ready for such abuse. "Head instructor, I object. We are elites from the solar system and represent the highest standard. We are not little birds and certainly not garbage." Dong Xiaoxia stood and spoke impolitely. Given his nasty temper, if that person was not the head instructor, Xiaoxia would have left long ago. Even the general treated them courteously, so how could the head instructor be so disrespectful? Chu Si's zombie-like face became even more stern. "If I say you are garbage, then you are garbage. Here, everything I say is law. You will comply. From this point in, whoever dares to doubt my orders will be immediately eliminated." Chu Si glared at Xiaoxia. Milo immediately pulled Xiaoxia away. Clearly, Chu Si was not joking. Otto's had gone through a lot of trouble to be revived, and was already under a lot of pressure from the 8 stars. If they continued to oppose the head instructor and got eliminated, they would be a laughing stock. Achilles stole a glance at Dong Xiaoxia. Dong Xiaoxia, after having cooled down, promptly took a seat. At this moment, Achilles was fairly unhappy since he did not expect to spend his summer break with such a bunch of naive and proud individuals. Dong Xiaoxia's adrenaline faded and he started to notice people around him mocking him. Although there were many people who shared his dissatisfaction, none of them were as rash as he was. "Head instructor, I was wrong." Dong Xiaoxia was not an idiot. He immediately offered an earnest apology in a bid to maintain the image of himself as a responsible soldier. Chu Si nodded. "In the future, if you have problems, you may raise your hand. Only after you have obtained my approval may you speak. Everyone rise. Attention, turn right and run." Chu Si brought everyone to the parade square. There was a number of mecha positioned in front of everyone, but everyone seemed disappointed. What the heck, how could they be so torn and tattered? All of the mecha were the Bata Type 5. This was the lowest possible grade of mech. The soldiers were mainly elites from the solar system, so they had even operated the highest quality mecha. How could they train with these pieces of junk? Training will now begin. You have a simple task. You will depart from here and make your way to the second section of the Gil base. The mecha have already been preset. If you do not reach your destination within 5 days, you will be eliminated, said Chu Si. At this point, yet another person, Lai Guang, raised his hand. "Speak. Head instructor, is it just people who need to reach the destination?" asked Lai Guang. "Idiot, both the mech and the person must reach it together. As a mech pilot, if you lose your mech, you might as well die. Little birds, you have wasted yet another 2 minutes, depart immediately." Following Chu Si's booming voice, everyone scrambled towards the Bata versus they tried to take closer looks to pick the better ones, since picking a bad one would spell trouble. Training on Earth was too barbaric. There was no room for reason. However, everyone knew that the 3 stages of the training were set by Earth, Mars, and the Moon respectively to guarantee a baseline level of fairness. In a foreign territory, It was best to behave to avoid any chance of being eliminated. Masashi and the rest started making their moves. Achilles clearly had some foresight. Once his men had adapted to the situation, they got into the mood quickly and did not need to be whipped. Lai Guang and the rest had qualified for this competition by merit. On the other hand, Otto's was eliminated before being allowed to enter. Although this was in line with the rules, there was still some stigma associated with a person who was entering the contest for the second time. Wang Zheng immediately picked a mech. The mech itself had no problems. No matter how damaged its exterior looked, its core functions were indeed all tested to be in working condition. Everyone picked a mech. These base models were easier to operate. To these elites, it was not even a challenge. The mecha all started up. The main operating system displaying the map started up. From their current location to the base, there were many routes. Some of them were winding, some involved underdeveloped danger zones. One had to decide on one's route. The shortest route was about 400 kilometers. Under these circumstances, also considering that the Bata had a speed limit, the most important consideration was that this mech was designed not for transport but for war. It was necessary to ensure that about 100 kilometers was covered each day since accidents were bound to happen in the desert. Everyone was equipped with a safety button for emergencies. However, once activated, one would immediately be eliminated. On top of that, it would take at least an hour before the rescue team arrived. This is not an environment for war, it was just traveling. 72 mecha would be going to travel through the harshness of the desert. But to these experienced mech pilots, just what sort of challenge could it pose? The mech pilots were all well acquainted with the road. This was no big deal. Besides, since this was Earth's mech, it was not too difficult. Boss, which route should we pick? There are so many choices. Milo, go make some calculations, said Achilles. To him, this was not a problem. However, the desert was still a foreign environment. It would truly be lucky to avoid any accidents in the desert. Since accidents were bound to happen, considering that he had to bring a team, the route he chose would have to be stable. Milo immediately evaluated all possible routes. The shortest route need not be the best. Out of the 10 routes the military gave, 8 or 9 of them had problems. In this foreign territory, simply advancing without planning would be inviting trouble. We can go by route C distance-wise, it is not the closest, however, we will get to pass through 2 oases. We need to start conserving water starting now. Every mech was stocked with biscuits and water. In such a hostile environment, it was still important to be careful with rations. Depart. In the face of Mother Nature, humans inevitably found themselves as tiny and insignificant. Surviving the desert would be no easy feat. Wang Zheng and his team also left. They did not allow any additional people in their team. If there were too many people, it would slow the team down. Under these circumstances, people tended to choose people within their social circles in order to ensure reliability in times of need. Lear went alone on the route. On the other hand, Luo Fei found and stuck with another team with his oratorical skills. The Lai family had a strong team. With the addition of Lai Guang, as well as Rastan's announcement, Lai Xin's became the second strongest team. On the other hand, Lear and Taro's became less outstanding. In particular, Lear, who was in the spotlight initially, eventually demonstrated only average performance. Wang Zheng and the rest operated their mecha through the desert. They were not silly. After all, these 4 people had come in desert vehicles and hence had a basic awareness of the challenges of the desert. It was not comfortable, and using a mech under these physical conditions was very taxing. In no time, fatigue started to set in. On top of that, the heat was driving people crazy. Gosh, who came up with this training? We will be killed by the heat before we even reach the destination. Wang Zheng, we cannot go on like this. I am afraid that we need to plan our time. It is too taxing to do anything in this midday heat, it takes too much energy. We just started, so our bodies should be in fairly good shape. Let us rest in 3 hours. Said Wang Zheng. Sure, I think we could even use the nights to travel and rest in the day. Let's go, let us show these people the results of our training. Zhang Shan was extremely self-assured. He had not squandered this summer break away, instead, he had kept his body in top condition, so he was sure that he was second to none in endurance. In this regard, the girls suffered a little more. However, Meng Tian was the best at enduring the heat with her ability, and Zhang Runan's physical constitution was fairly strong, hence she also had an advantage. In no time, everyone stopped speaking. Even speaking took a lot of physical energy. In the desert, one just faced an endless swath of sand. There was no end in sight. Without signs, one had no choice but to gauge their direction and continue pressing on. Wang Zheng chose route D, which was arguably the safest route. During the break, the four of them quickly stepped out of the mecha. It had been said that the higher-end mecha were very comfortable, however, sadly, they were only using ordinary mecha. Even though Zhang Shan enjoyed pushing his body during training, he felt like he was in an oven and was not as motivated. The air was dry and he was drenched in sweat. It was unbearable. After drinking water in large gulps, Zhang Shan could not help but to curse. God d*mn. We will be dried to death before we even arrive at our destination. What kind of training is this? Shouldn't we be using real knives and guns? Wang Zheng laughed. Please don't complain. Given that we can't change our circumstances, we just have to learn to adapt. Indeed. Life is like being castrated. If you can't resist, you just have to accept it, haha, said Zhang Shan with a laugh. Zhang Shan, watch your language, said Zhang Runan with a glare. Haha, sorry, I forgot that there were two ladies among us. The four hid in the shadows of the mecha for a short break before entering the mecha again to resume training. Their speed had clearly decreased, reflecting how both their mental and physical states were being put to the test. This was what every trainee had to endure. In contrast to Demon Island, the desert was the true hell. In comparison, Demon Island was really a sort of paradise. There were flora and fauna, whereas here, there was only sand. Meng Ao watched the constantly moving green dot on screen. He was responsible for designing this segment. To these young soldiers, it certainly was quite a challenge. Perhaps they were already sufficiently prepared for individual battles, but they were still lacking in this aspect. IG selections were increasingly challenging. It was not just demonstrating one's proficiency in mecha battles but also a more holistic form of preparation that would allow them to get a good score in Aslan, thereby earning glory for the solar system. He saw the improvements of these students. From their current standing, most of them had not slacked off and had made preparations for battle. In terms of quality, this batch was indubitably the best in recent years. However, it was still not enough, and they had room for improvement. Meng Ao, Lai Wuqing, and Dramok all definitely did not slack off. The situation was great. They had gathered intelligence about the battlefield from multiple sources and somehow managed to get their hands on footage of how their foes were preparing for war. More importantly, they even had intel on the Arbiter Republic's training. After going through the intel, Ao Meng and the rest's lax attitudes quickly evaporated. They were not being merciless enough. The first step was to change the trainees entirely. Heck, what kind of hellish training is this? I thought I was dying. Edison was on the brink of madness. He was a fighter, but his strengths lied elsewhere. Although his combat abilities were fine, he paled in comparison to others. We've only just begun. Stop complaining. After all, you are representing Karagal, Lada laughed. Edison was an electrical engineer and specialist. Amongst those in the training course, he was second to none and was important to the team. However, regardless of his expertise, he still had to ensure he possessed the fundamentals. Lai Xin stood on the shoulder of the Bada and stared into the distance. Her lean body became even more attractive under the sun. She smiled. Looks like the special training is starting to get interesting. I heard that the three generals were excited by the training scenario, so it is not going to be easy for us. Depending on the environment, life could be extremely treacherous. For example, the Northern Star had a gravitational pull 5 times the norm and could easily wear out a good half of the training squad. Rest time is over, move out. Lai Xin jumped down from the mech. She had no qualms with being the leader. Surely you can't be worse than a woman, she remarked. The crowd was stirred. As elites, there was no way they wanted to be despised by women. It was difficult for the mecha to advance in the desert, and they seemed insignificantly small. The first day had passed. Everyone seemed to have sustained a fair speed and demonstrated their mastery of the fundamentals. However, this was just the beginning. The real test had yet to come. Pretty much all the teams chose to avoid the coldest and warmest periods of the desert. They strategically chose their rest periods. However, there were also teams who were rather extreme, proceeding even at high noon and in the wee hours of the night, only occasionally taking breaks when they felt tired. Wang Zheng's team was soon met with problems. When they were resting at night, due to the lack of light and Zhang Shan's fatigue, they knocked over a water bottle and lost scarce, precious water. Zhang Shan started to get frustrated. Without water in the desert, one was essentially waiting to die. D*MN, what should I do now? Zhang Shan grasped his head with a look of distraught. Meng Tian and Zhang Runan were also helpless. Although they were fairly tolerant towards the heat, they exhausted more energy than men. By the end of the day, Meng Tian was clearly exhausted, and her ability X was not enough to help her. Among the four, perhaps Wang Zheng and Zhang Runan were in the best shape. Drink piss. Otherwise, you won't be able to endure this, said Zhang Runan unflinchingly. Zhang Shan felt his stomach revolting. Manly sister, don't joke, I'd rather die. You think I'm joking? Asked Zhang Runan coldly. Zhang Shan ultimately struggled to accept his situation, wondering how he could commit such a mistake at this crucial moment. Zhang Shan started to tremble in the cold. The supplies the military gave us are clearly not enough. Even if we find an oasis, we may not find water. We either need to split our supplies or die together, said Zhang Runan, who sounded like she had cooled down slightly. Zhang Shan finally began to realize the gravity of his mistake. Zhang Shan grit his teeth. I won't be a burden to you all. I can endure this. Zhang Runan said, I am only getting you in the zone. Actually, you can get water in the desert. At the place where the water was split, she dug a hole and placed the water bottle inside. At the top of the bottle, Runan placed a layer of unknown material and sealed the edges of the bottle. Zhang Shan stared blankly. This, the most simple method to obtain water. Now sleep. The three were not stupid and quickly understood Zhang Runan's rationale to warn Zhang Shan and get him in the zone. However, they never would have thought that Zhang Runan would be this prepared for the desert. You are the best, Zhang Shan cheered. The four were all tired and quickly fell into slumber. Given that the rest of the desert was extremely cold, they could only sleep in their mecca. After 3 hours, their alarms rang and the four quickly woke up. None of them complained about weariness, since that would only affect morale and seemed childish. They should all be prepared for this. Zhang Shan swept away the sand and carefully removed his bottle from the hole. It was filled with water. Guys, you are amazing. You are basically familiar with all the life hacks, said Zhang Shan with a tone of admiration. Zhang Runan shrugged her shoulders. I just briefly read up about how to get food and water in the desert before setting off, that is all. Zhang Runan was always so nonchalant, whereas Zhang Shan continued to lick her boots. Move out, shouted Wang Zheng with vigor. To him, this was still tolerable. Resting helped him to recover and minimize sweating. Compared to his previous training, this was not too physically strenuous to him. However, facing the strains of the desert was indeed a new experience. Completing a distance of 100 kilometers within 24 hours was a basic military requirement, so no one dared to complain. However, in the desert, it was not only the sand, but also the volatility of the weather. Facing bad weather was truly the most dangerous. For 3 days, Wang Zheng maintained a very decent military pace. Thanks to Zhang Runan's method of obtaining water in the desert, they had been able to maintain an advantage by sustaining their water supplies. As they would be arriving at the oasis soon, the four of them could not help but increase their pace. They did not rush recklessly. They cautiously balanced the need for stability and safety as they strived to arrive at their destination. Haha, just another 10 kilometers and we will arrive at the oasis. I want to drink and eat loads, cheered Zhang Shan. Since the destination was an oasis, there had to be food and water there. There should be cacti or even coconuts since this place had been redeveloped. With these thoughts in mind, the team was motivated to press on. Yuan Yi, I cannot go on. We gotta rest, said Song Li. What's wrong? Just a little more and we will be at the oasis, encouraged Yuan Yi. Look at the weather, a sandstorm is about to hit. Besides, I have a premonition that there is something wrong ahead. I can't really explain it, but let us stop for a bit, said Song Li. Yuan Yi hesitated and said, sure. Besides, we are not in too much of a hurry. Let's rest for a bit. He trusted Song Li's intuition. Before danger struck, one's intuition would warn them. Although it may not be always accurate, trusting intuition was preferred as it might be better to err on the side of caution. Wang Zheng's group felt the same. The skies do not look too good. Looks like a sandstorm is coming, said Zhang Runan. Wang Zheng felt that the environment was rather unsettling. I don't think we can proceed. Let us stop for here. Everyone, keep within a radius of 50 meters, said Wang Zheng. With a mecha, there was nothing to fear about a sandstorm. One just had to wait until the sandstorm is over. This could very well be one of the unique experiences of being in a desert. After settling down for about half an hour, the skies started to get visibly yellower. From the distance, a swirl of sand could be seen coming towards them. Regarding this natural phenomena, the four of them had their curiosities aroused by the marvels of Mother Nature. After all, they had spent most of their lives in cities, so they had only seen a sandstorms in class or in a movie. The actual experience was entirely different. There was a sense of awe, wonder, and also pride as human technology offered them the protection they needed against the strength of Mother Nature. Within a few minutes, the sandstorm engulfed the four mecha. The winds were viciously strong and their surroundings were all dark. There was only the sound of sand hitting against the mecha. The four mecha stood unshaken by the sand. Zhang Shan hummed a happy tune, much like how as a kid, one would be assured by the comfort of being indoors during a storm. Well, we are pretty lucky to experience such natural phenomena. Let's chat, otherwise, it will get boring. Under these circumstances, even if there was no raging sandstorm, being in a mecha felt particularly comfortable. Chat about what? Wang Zheng, how's your training? Haven't you awakened your ability? You should use your ability more. How else will you improve? Said Zhang Shan. The four switched on their video chat. Wang Zheng smiled painfully. You think I don't want to? My body barely keeps up. However, for the sake of everyone, I will do my best and keep on moving. What, you have such strength and yet you can't keep up? Your growth is pretty good. Use your ability and help me warp to a faraway place instead. Wang Zheng, I think you are more like a fountain. You need to tap into your potential and harness it, find the real method. Actually, these circumstances are pretty common. Many people find that they have awakened but are not aware of what their actual ability is, Meng Tian said. After all, as a member of Academy X, she could not be compared to the other three. Gosh, there is even such a thing? If I cannot feel it, doesn't it mean that I never will? Asked Zhang Shan curiously. Wang Zheng smiled. That's probably not the case. I am afraid to use it. My body will definitely be unable to take it. You must be exaggerating. Meng Tian once said that warping causes a strain on me, but even I can handle it. Given your monstrous capabilities, you should be fine. This is a feeling, and it should be fairly accurate. Wantonly using my ability X will definitely cause other issues to arise, said Wang Zheng as he smiled sheepishly. After receiving help from so many people who tried to help him, he arrived at some understanding of his ability X. His ability was different from the rest, and he was unable to control it. At that point, being too strong was not a good thing. If he lost control using his ability in the first phase, he could have died. The sounds of the wind started to weaken and the skies were starting to clear. There was indeed something comforting about witnessing the skies clear. There was a warm feeling in one's heart. However, at this moment, there was a tremor and a weird sound. The surface was sinking. This is not good, it's quicksand. Run, shouted Zhang Runan as soon as she got a grasp of the situation outside. Since who knows when, the area that they were at had become a low-lying area. Just a short distance away was a huge pit. Sand flowed down it like water and the mecha were sinking. They were within the area of the quicksand. No one had expected to encounter such an incident. This was simply a nightmare. The mecha were a burden as the heavier they were, the faster they sank. There was no point in shouting for help at this point in time. If they were not able to get out in time, they would be finished in just minutes. In fact, they had started to sink moments ago. However, due to the howling of the wind, together with the fact that the four of them were inexperienced, they did not pay much attention to it. Were they going to die in this place? A few kilometers away, Yuan Yi was astonished. It seemed too unbelievable. If they had moved a little faster, they would be on their way to the reincarnation cycle. To a mech warrior, if one was to be trapped in the quicksand in the desert, death would be unavoidable. What the hell is this? Anyone who was trapped in this would have no chance of survival. This type of selection process is even more ridiculous than the first stage. It's good that you all are capable. An average person would not have been able to assess when such a thing would occur. Oh, damn, do you actually think that we can make it to the main competition? Those who make it to Aslan won't be ordinary people. To be competing with a bunch of lunatics would be risking our lives. We should just try to keep our lives intact while trying to achieve a good result. We really couldn't compete with them anymore. I think I saw some sort of reflection. Could it be that someone was unlucky? You're right, it's a reflection from a mech. Oh, damn, who is the unlucky one? It seems to be. Runan and her group were just in front of us. The four men looked at one another. Suddenly, Yuan Yi let out a weird scream. The engine of the Bata roared and it headed towards the direction of the hole. The rest of them quickly followed. Although Wang Zheng and his group were not in the center of the quicksand whirlpool, which spanned across hundreds of meters in diameter, they could still feel that their mecha were sinking at a fast pace. At the crucial moment, the four of them immediately tried to control their machines. The engines snarled loudly, but it was futile. The more they struggled, the faster they sank. Zhang Shan let out a huge scream. He seemed to be distracted when he suddenly activated his ability X. His Bata Type 5 suddenly jerked and was able to escape the quicksand. Although it was only a displacement of approximately 1 meter, it was enough to save his life. At this moment, the engine roared louder and the mech was able to get out of the quicksand area rapidly. It was a moment where he pushed the mech to its limit. Zhang Shan was trying to run outwards as though he was crazy. At the moment of life and death, Zhang Runan shrank her body quickly. The arms of the Bata Type 5 stopped moving momentarily. Then, suddenly, the arms slammed towards the sides, causing an air explosion. Boom! This was an ingenious idea. The explosive force was released in a short moment, blasting away the quicksand. Zhang Runan immediately flew out. However, Wang Zheng and Meng Tian were closer to the center of the quicksand and had sunk the deepest. The greatest problem was that Meng Tian's ability X was useless at this moment. After escaping the quicksand area with much effort, Zhang Runan and Zhang Shan noticed that Wang Zheng and Meng Tian had not made it out. Give me your hand, Meng Tian, hurry, Wang Zheng said with strong conviction. At the moment when Wang Zheng controlled his machine and grabbed hold of Meng Tian, a sudden turning maneuver launched Meng Tian out of the quicksand in one swift motion. At the same time, the sand had totally covered the cockpit of Wang Zheng's mech. Wang Zheng could not even open the cabin door even if he wanted to at this moment. Meng Tian was dumbfounded to the point where she almost forgot to move. Power steer your mech, hurry, Meng Tian. Wang Zheng's screaming finally shook Meng Tian awake. As though it was an instinctive move, the mech flew upwards. Zhang Shan and Zhang Runan quickly came over and helped Meng Tian regain balance by standing at her left and right sides. What can we do now? What can we do now? Oh, damn, what do we do now? Zhang Shan and the rest were at their wits' end. They had to maintain their power steering to be able to maintain their mech above the sand. If they were to move closer, they would probably lose control. This was really a pressing issue. Just when Meng Tian's mech was preparing to move towards Wang Zheng, she heard a loud voice. Move back at least 30 meters. Hurry. Wang Zheng did not sound angsty or depressed. It was the opposite. He seemed extremely calm. No, if you die, we will die together. Meng Tian's lips were bleeding as she bit her lip. Runan, Zhang Shan, move Meng Tian away quickly. You all might have plans to die, but I do not wish to. Hurry, there's no more time. I have a way to get out. Wang Zheng's words were full of confidence. Zhang San and Zhang Runan were flustered. They immediately pulled Meng Tian's mech along and moved outwards. Listen to Wang Zheng. This guy has a plan. He is the most capable. As he completed his sentence, there were no longer any movements. Zhang Runan gritted his teeth. Her mind had gone blank. How could it be? How did it turn out this way? How did it turn out this way? Let go of me. Meng Tian was exhausted. It was as though that roar from Wang Jung had drained her of all her energy. Wang Jung was just lying to them. In the blink of an eye, the cockpit had sunk below, leaving only the head exposed. In a few seconds, it would also disappear. The sky had cleared up. Was this the last glimmer of Wang Jung's life? Having reached this stage, even if she didn't want to use it, she would have to. At this moment, Meng Tian was able to gather strength that was unknown to her and was able to break free from Zhang Shan and Zhang Runan. She would not let Wang Jung die alone. At that very instant, the three of them suddenly felt a suffocating source of power. Soon after, a light blue cold ray exploded, turning the scorching hot desert into a blazing cold hell. The three people could never forget this scene. Using the Bada as the center, everything surrounding it was freezing at a rate that could be tracked with the naked eye. The quicksand was frozen. Zhang Shan's jaw dropped to the point that he could swallow his own hand. What was this? After approximately 10 seconds, everything in a 20-meter radius of the mech was completely frozen. Meng Tian had already rushed towards the center with her Bada Type 5. The quicksand had indeed been frozen, but she was not thinking about this anymore. Hurry over and help. Zhang Runan and Zhang Shan hurried over. With three mecha's engines operating at maximum capacity, they applied a force together and pulled Wang Jung's Bada out as though they were pulling out a carrot. Hurry. Let's go. Wang Jung could not remember anything. It was as though he was drained of all his energy. The three of them carried the mech and ran with all their might to over more than 100 meters away to escape the quicksand area before they stopped. The quicksand behind them was moving down at a faster rate compared to before. The previous scene seemed like a dream to them. When they opened the cabin door, Zhang Shan carried Wang Jung out. At this moment, Wang Jung was pale and his face was white as snow. Meng Tian pulled Zhang Shan aside and moved closer to Wang Jung's chest area. His heartbeat was weak and his breathing was also weak. Immediately, Meng Tian separated Wang Jung's mouth and started performing CPR. Tears were racing down Meng Tian's face. Zhang Shan shrugged his shoulders helplessly. He actually could have done this for Wang Jung too. Zhang Runan touched Wang Jung's head. He should be all right. He has most likely exhausted all his energy. It was surprising that the attribute of his ability X was the same as yours. Compared to Zhang Shang and Meng Tian, Zhang Runan was calmer. Meng Tian came from a military family background and was familiar with first aid. She probably had a better understanding with regards to ability X and knew that Wang Jung's current condition was a classic result of overexerting oneself. Finally catching her breath, Meng Tian realized that she had lost her cool previously. However, she couldn't care much about it. Wang Jung had indeed given the hope of surviving to her just moments ago. Kiki, Meng Tian, what class would this ability fall into? It was truly scary to be able to freeze the quicksand in just an instant. Meng Tian and Zhang Runan looked at one another. Such a domineering ice attribute ability was truly amazing. I am not too sure either, but it was definitely C class or above. Could it be that the two of them had achieved a breakthrough at the same time that day? Wang Jung's attribute was ice too. However, if it was of the same source, why hadn't she felt it? There are people coming this way. It'll be best if we do not say anything, said Zhang Runan. Zhang Runan was still the calmest person. Meng Tian might look resilient, but she was in fact the one most likely to suffer a breakdown. Wang Jung had a strong ability but would fall unconscious once he used it. They couldn't let anyone know about it or there might be big issues. Meng Tian caressed Wang Jung's face, took out a bottle of water, and drank a mouthful of it before passing it slowly to Wang Jung. At this romantic moment, Zhang Runan gave Zhang Shang a kick. Zhang Shan had intended to continue watching but had to turn around. Sigh, he would have liked to save the damsel in distress too, but he just did not have the opportunity. Wang Jung was too cunning, always choosing the best opportunity to save others. Although this ultimate move had great power, it was a pity that it could only be used for a huge move instead of being controlled subtly. However, this was not an issue as gaining control of it was just a matter of time. Practically, only Wang Jung knew the truth about it. This wasn't an issue about exerting his ability in smaller amounts. In fact, this was the weakest form that he had control over. His spiritual energy, which was the source of his ability X, was too strong. so it caused his body to not be able to completely withstand it. Meng Tian moved Wang Zheng's head into her arms and tried to feel any changes in Wang Zheng's body. She could not let anything happen to Wang Zheng. When Wang Zheng opened his eyes, the moon was already hanging high up in the sky. He did not feel anything different, just that his whole body was sore and as though he had not rested for a long period of time. You have finally awakened. Zhang Shan jumped down and the others quickly crowded around. How long was I unconscious for? Wang Zheng shook his heads. It was more than 3 hours, but we had a good rest too. Yuan Yi and his group happened to be nearby and they want to travel with us, said Zhang Runan as he winked at Wang Zheng. Yuan Yi looked at Wang Zheng and said, "It couldn't be Wang Zheng. Did you overexert yourself too much previously and became exhausted? How could you faint from fatigue after running for such a short period of time?" Wang Zheng was taken aback by what Yuan Yi said. He also knew it must have been Zhang Shan who had concealed the real situation. What? I overexerted myself and caused myself to feel a bit unwell. Can you still move? Song Li asked curiously as Wang Zheng did look a bit pale and weak. It's not a big issue, just feeling a little hungry now. Let me have something to eat and drink and I should be all right. Yuan Yi and his group were amusing. They could have left first but had chosen to stay behind. It would be better to be traveling together as having Song Li and his group could help prevent them from walking into quicksand. In other words, Wang Zheng and his group were lucky. If they had sunken a little deeper, they would have all perished. After consuming a meal ferociously, Wang Zheng could feel that his body was recovering quickly. Although he still felt some soreness and pain after some physical activity, he could totally ignore it. As the group went on the road with Yuan Yi's group, there were more things to talk about. After all, they had taken an unusually long break. Along the way, Yuan Yi kept bragging about the abilities of Song Li and his group. With Song Li around, they would not have to worry about any accidents happening. Are you all right, Wang Zheng? If you are still not feeling well, I can accompany you and take a break, said Meng Tian worriedly. Meng Tian, what has Wang Zheng been doing this whole summer? He was considered a black horse in the first stage and many people are waiting for the chance to teach him a lesson in the second stage. His current condition will not make it. Look at me, I'm much stronger now. We have been training hard for the entire summer. Yuan Yi's true intention was not to talk to Meng Tian but to show off his muscles to Zhang Runan. He could show that such marches were nothing for the people from Europa. The physical condition of the people from Europa was really good, one of the best in the solar system. Zhang Shan shook his head helplessly. This dude should look at who he was boasting to. Wang Zheng's ability was something that would be considered frightening. At the crucial moment, he could defeat anyone in an instant. However, he was not allowed to talk about it, and this was a headache for him. I'm fine and am recovering gradually. It seems that your preparations were rather thorough. Yeah, we traveled to the Northern Star to undergo special training. Europa and Raphael Academy have some connections. 5 times the gravity was definitely insane. This type of situation is considered trivial in comparison. Yuan Yi said that at Europa, if a guy wanted to go after a girl, he would have to show off his abilities. Zhang Shan did have much to talk about with Yuan Yi. At this moment, Meng Tian and Wang Zheng had started their own private channel. Are you actually okay? It was nothing. I'm not that fragile. Don't think about it too much. I'm sure you would have done so too if you were in my position, laughed Wang Zheng. Thank you, I owe you a life. We're teammates. It was hard to say if I would need you to save me someday, so let's not think about it. Wang Zheng waved his hand and smiled. His honest attitude made Meng Tian feel much at ease. Your ability is very strange. It's really strong, but it seems that you don't have full control over it, asked Meng Tian. At the moment, it seems to be so. However, I have been working hard to control it. This is the first time I witnessed an ability X that has a C-grade strength right when it awakened. What is C-grade strength? There are many different attributes and types of abilities. If we want to classify it specifically, there could be over 100 different types. However, the deciding factor in a battle is not just the type but also the strength. For example, Zhang Shan's ability is definitely considered to be high grade in terms of the classification of abilities. However, this is not enough. One also has to look at its strength. He should be at the low D grade as his displacement is limited. If his ability's strength was C grade, he could have brought all of us out of that situation. Meng Tian said that this was common knowledge in Academy X. However, such knowledge was considered to be uncommon in the outside world. In most cases, awakened abilities are usually at the D grade and below, and one will have to learn to control it and develop it. Very rarely do we have cases like yours where the ability is at C grade or higher from the moment it awakens. One can only try to gauge the strength through intuition. There are higher grades? Wang Zheng was curious regarding this topic. It seemed that there were many others classifications. A, B, C, D, 4 different grades. For each grade, there are 3 levels. A grade is the strongest and most people are at D grade at the moment. Runan and I are approximately at the middle level of D grade. For your situation, it's likely that you have exceeded D grade. As for the exact position, even I cannot tell. Zhang Shan and Song Li all have low D grade abilities? Yes, among the people from our batch, Achilles, Lear, and Lai Xin are the strongest 3 people. Rumors have it that they have surpassed the D grade in terms of strength. However, you are similar. Their advantage lies in their ability strength. Is everyone's ability fixed? What I mean is, can we learn abilities from one another? Asked Wang Zheng. Meng Tian was taken aback for a moment and laughed. Are you seeing this as choosing what lessons you want to take? Ability X is defined at birth. Occasionally, it might evolve and bring about new powers. And there might be people who are born with multiple abilities, but I have never heard about learning a new ability. Anyone with some knowledge about Ability X would not have asked such a childish question, but Wang Zheng felt the need to ask about it. It was apparent that his understanding of Ability X was different from the rest and was definitely unique. It seemed that he would need to learn how to control it, and he would have to stay low for some time. Meng Tian was very happy. She felt that the fact that Wang Zheng's ability being similar to hers was a sign of chemistry and fate. Although she couldn't put it into words, she felt warmth in her heart. Oh, right, what are the differences between us and the people from Atlantis? Wang Zheng felt that people from Academy X paid more attention to Atlantis. With the curiosity of human beings, someone must have conducted ample research. Yes, there are some differences. However, I am not privy to that knowledge. They are genetically superior but are unlike us. Furthermore, they have to rely on their own specialized tools. Meng Tian knew little in this aspect. Humans had their own unique attributes. The people from Atlantis were strong, but they did have their own problems. After giving it much thought, it would make much sense. If Atlantis was really invincible, why would they still follow the laws of the Milky Way Alliance? They would be ruling it if that were true. Wang Zheng, Meng Tian, did you two just start a private conversation without us? That's too heartless, said Yuan Yi. The atmosphere around the two of them was destroyed. Yuan Yi did not know how to read the atmosphere. It was no wonder Zhang Runan could not stand him. Although Zhang Runan seemed rowdy on the outside, she was a girl who was interested in the arts, and there was no way she could stand such a crude guy. I feel like my body has recovered. Guys, we can pick up our speed and try to cover more distance, said Wang Zheng. Don't act tough, Wang Zheng, we still have a few days more. Don't worry about it. 8 mech warriors took advantage of nighttime and marched forward. It was clear that the resting time for tonight would be compressed to make up for the time lost in the day. On the other side, the 8 stars from the moon had arrived at the oasis along their planned route. Everyone had a bright smile and Dong Xiaoxia was already screaming and rushing towards it. Initially, everyone thought that the oasis would very possibly be a huge, lush field. However, it was, in fact, a village. The scale of the village was substantial and a few hundred could people to live in it. Disregarding all the rest, at least they could get a good rest and replenish their supplies. Although it was night time, there was sufficient light around and many people were singing and dancing. The appearance of mech warriors had not caused any confusion. On the other hand, the passionate residents also invited the guests to dance with them. Due to living in close proximity to a military base, they were used to seeing military mech warriors. Also, as one of the largest oases in the desert, they mainly depended on replenishing others' supplies and tourism to earn a living. In current times, there were many people who sought the torture and excitement from experiencing indigenous lives. After experiencing a long journey, Milo and her group were exhilarated when they suddenly saw such a scene. Especially when there was alcohol to be had. Dong Xiaoxia and Pai Xiaoxiu were close to drooling. There were huge pieces of meat, and their aroma aroused the group's interest to the point of insanity. However, Achilles' words dampened the excitement. Rest, replenish our supplies, and we will move out in 2 hours' time. Milo desired a bath the most and was close to going crazy. However, at this moment, she was successful in suppressing her desire. This was emotion management. Although the team felt a bit depressed, everyone had to respect Achilles' callous attitude. Clearly, Achilles wasn't totally inhumane and was fine with the group satisfying basic needs like eating and drinking. However, alcohol would definitely not be allowed. However, humans often yearned what they were deprived of the most. Dong Xiaoxia and Pai Xiaoxiu could barely hold back their desire for alcohol, especially when they were facing a group of people who were gobbling down huge chunks of meat and alcohol. It must have felt so good. Dong Xiaoxia and Pai Xiaoxiu were salivating. However, they could only drink mineral water, and this was distasteful to them. Before the deadline of 2 hours, the 8 stars gathered after completing replenishing their supplies and were ready to move out. In fact, there was nothing much for them to replenish other than having a good meal and replenishing some military-use rations and water. After all, the mecha did not have the same type of storage capabilities as a refrigerator. On your mark, let's move out, Achilles waved his hands after looking at the night sky. If it was me, I would have done a check first. A voice came from the dark. The excitement of the 8 stars died down. Achilles turned around and saw a man walking out from the dark. Taros, Atos, Masasi, you guys go take a look, said Achilles calmly. What a coincidence, Taros. Looks like we have quite a bit of affinity that we actually met here, laughed Achilles. Boss, look, seems like someone wanted to ambush us. Achilles found a miniature electromagnetic mine on his mech. As the mech moved, the mine would detonate after accumulating a certain amount of magnetic force. Although the destructive force wasn't big, it would be enough to cause a malfunction of the mech in a long journey. If it really went off, disqualification would be inevitable. Thank you, Achilles looked at Taros and couldn't believe Taros would help him. Taros shook his head and said, I'm doing this for myself. At the first stage, we made a bet and I conceded my defeat. I will support your bid to be the leader. Also, I was interested in Lai Xin's group, although she has no interest in me. Taros was direct. Achilles had a great understanding of Taros' personality. He wouldn't have done this unless there were benefits. Rastin was allied with Lai Xin. Taros would definitely have to make a choice between him or Lear. At this moment, it would be almost certain that Taros would choose him. The bet was just an excuse. After all, Taros still wanted to save face. Welcome. With your help, it will be a great addition to our already strong team. Achilles smiled. Although Milo and her group weren't too fond of Taros, his strength was stronger than those in Achilles' group. In addition, the current group wasn't enough to compete for the position of leader. What the hell, who's the one who wanted to ambush us? I would definitely kill him if I knew who he was. Probably Lear. We're on Earth. I don't believe that he did not know that this would be the training ground and made plans beforehand to ambush us, Atos said angrily. He noticed that Taros did not look friendly and felt that it was Taros who wanted to ambush them. Taros couldn't care less about it. He was here for the shared benefits and couldn't be bothered with how a small fly looked at him. Achilles was clear about Taros' personality. This man wasn't dependable. However, if there were benefits, especially shared benefits, he could be the most dependable. Damn, Lear has broken the rules. I will go after him after we reach the base, Dong Xiaoxia was fuming. How do you see it, Milo? Asked Achilles. The electromagnetic mine is a product from Earth and was made by the Kronos family. I did not think that Lear would be childish enough to do so. The way the current situation is developing, it is clear that the position of leader would be given to either Boss or Lai Xin. Lear does not have any supporters, so naturally he can only decide to join someone else's coalition. It's unlikely that he would resort to such a childish method to put us at a disadvantage. He could have just ambushed both Lai Xin and us. Then IG will exist in name only this time. Milo's eyes flashed and glanced at Taros. Taros, did you see anything? All I saw was a figure flashing by. Even if there was no such figure, it is a basic thing to conduct a check on one's mech. Yet you all were foolish enough to not leave behind anyone to keep watch, said Taros with a sarcastic smile creeping from the side of his mouth. Don't you need to depend on foolish people like us? Atos could not hold back and replied sarcastically. Kiki, those who can recognize the current situation are considered wise, and I was wise, said Taros nonchalantly. This was a weakness of the people from the moon. Achilles had never expected to encounter such incidents in a selection test. He took a look at Atos and Atos stopped talking. To become a leader, Achilles would not only need the capacity to accept others but also the ability to control them. Welcome, Achilles took the initiatives and held out his hand. He would need a scheming person by his side, and without a doubt, Taros was the best candidate. Was it Lear? I'm afraid it's more likely to be Lai Shin. No one would believe it if someone said that the Lai family had no one on earth. This woman could be more ruthless than a man, and at this moment, Lai Shin's biggest opponent was him. As for Lear, other than that obese guy on his team, no one could be bothered with him. Although he had the ability, he was too arrogant, and even Achilles would not be willing to use him. I hope that we will have a joyful alliance, Taros said with a greedy look. Although he was one of the 5 candidates, Taros was similar to Rastin with regards to the need to choose the person he wished to follow. This would not only determine the result of the IG competition this time, it would also affect their future based on their results. After all, Achilles and Lai Shin were not ordinary humans, and IG was only a springboard. This was a declaration of war from Lai Shin. Similarly, Lai Shin had encountered the same situation. The only difference was that it was discovered by Ruofeng. Every team had a conscientious person. Has Lear fallen so much that he had to make such a despicable move? Lai Guang could not hold back his emotions and let out a laugh. It doesn't seem to be so. Although Lear isn't very sociable, he is someone with pride. Even if he wanted to do this, he wouldn't have done it on his own territory and made it so obvious, said Rastin as he shook his head. Lai Shin smiled. It probably wasn't Lear. That man has too much pride and looks down upon everyone. Also, such a trick would not be able to change the current situation. He stands no chance this year. If we were to look at the teams and reputations, Achilles and Lai Shin would completely dominate Lear. Disregarding them, other ordinary members would probably spend more time finding out about Ares College than about Lear. Do you think that this could have been done by someone from Achilles' group? Lin Ruofeng asked. The focus was on someone from Achilles' group and not Achilles specifically. The sun god was a man with a high level of pride and confidence and would not have resorted to such tricks. However, the same could not be said about the people under him. Milo, Atos, Masasi, and the rest of the group were fatally loyal to Achilles. It was hard to say if they would have such thoughts after seeing Rastin joining the other side. You all do not have to look at Achilles with such high regard. That man only looks decent on the outside. The people from the moon have been learning from their failures, and people do change. Let's just treat it as the official start of the battle. We have to pick up the pace. I want to be in first place for the remainder of the competition. Lai Shin was ambitious and spoke with much gusto. The addition of Rastin and Lai Guang had bolstered her team. No one could possibly think of stopping her. Different from the others, Lear had chosen to proceed ahead alone while enjoying the loneliness of the desert. As for Luo Fei, he had decided to mix with the stragglers and tried to get closer with them. After all, he was from Earth and had done strategic assaults, and the rest of the people were willing to bring a guide. This was especially true as they were unable to enter the strongest teams, meaning their only goal was to achieve a good result. Obviously, if they had more luck and entered the main round, it would be even more amazing. Results were the most important. In Gil Base, Chu Si, is this group of little dudes capable enough? General, their ability to adapt is extremely strong. However, they lack vigilance. In a small test, it was shown that Lai Shin and Achilles' reactions would not have passed, said Chu Si seriously. Who had the better performance? General, Lear has had the best performance thus far and has fully fulfilled the goals we set. He is to the point and clear. Lear is in first place currently and has a huge lead over the rest. He is also highly vigilant, said Chu Si without hiding anything. All right, continue the surveillance. How has Wang Zheng performed thus far? Asked Meng Ao suddenly just when he was leaving. Wang Zheng. performance was average and is currently in the middle pack of the teams. However, he has not made any mistakes. Chu Si continued. General, I suggest letting Meng Tian and Zhang Runan be reclassified to Lear's team. With the strength of the two of them together with Lear and Luo Fei, Earth could expect to achieve a lot. Meng Ao did not say a word. Continue the surveillance. Yes, General. Chu Si did not hold back on formalities as the video image of Meng Ao disappeared. Wang Zheng and the group were also picking up their pace. The after effects that he was worried about did not occur. In the process of transforming powerful energy, he was drained of all his strength. However, Wang Zheng's recovery ability was extremely strong and he was recovering gradually. It was just that he had eaten too much. There was indeed strength in numbers in the lonely environment of the desert. One would not be able to understand how anyone could get used to being here alone. The eternally similar environment was driving people to insanity, and the level of fatigue was beyond what ordinary people could endure. On the opposite side, when moving in a group while encouraging one another, the feeling of stress and fatigue would seem much less intense. To maintain the current pace, the team had employed the strategy of rotating the leading person. The scorching hot environment was a huge headache for everyone. It was especially so for Meng Tian and Zhang Runan. The longer this lasted, the more the disadvantages of being a female would show. Even Zhang Runan had started to feel unbearable. However, the encouragement from the people around her had allowed her to continue to persevere. At their current pace, it was possible to reach their goal on time. For 5 days, they were always with their mecha. The most obvious transformation was that they were completely used to the mecha and were no longer feeling unfamiliar with them. In addition, there could have been some subconscious transformations that even they themselves had not noticed. On the 5th day, the participants of the current selection test arrived at their destination one after another in their mecha. Lear was the first to arrive. He had broken the record with respect to the speed he crossed the desert. He had taken the most direct route. Lai Xin and her group were the second to arrive. Lai Xin had originally thought that she would be the fastest and was surprised to see that Lear had arrived before her. The third wave included Achilles and his group. When the crowd saw Taros with them, they were clear of what had happened. The fourth wave to arrive was Wang Zheng and his group. They were originally in the middle of the pack. However, their pace had clearly quickened in the last 2 days and they had finished strongly. At this stage, the distribution of power had roughly taken shape. However, not everyone was able to arrive on time. No one had thought about what would happen if they weren't on time. They thought that it would be a deduction in points in the worst case. However, at the moment the time was up, the gates to the base were slammed shut. Those who had not arrived were all eliminated. There would be flying ships that would be sending them out directly, and there wasn't any chance for a conclusion. No excuses, no explanations. Chu Si looked upon the 42 remaining people before him. Firstly, I have to congratulate you bunch of rookies. You're slightly better than the rookies outside. But that's only because you understand the value of hard work just a little bit better than them. Rest today. Tomorrow, your training begins anew. Now, and, attention, and, dismissed, the 42 people in the Great Hall sported haggard faces. Even Achilles himself could not have endured such hardships with an unchanging face. A human's control over their own body was quite strong, but to handle a mech in addition to it was an extra burden. The moment Chu Si gave the command for dismissal, the portly Luo Fei sat down heavily on the floor. Oh, God. This torture is both physical and mental. Finally it's over. Fatty, I last saw you a few days ago, and it looks like you've put on weight again. Looks like you still have deep, untapped potential, Those nearby could not resist throwing a few jabs. No one expected such harsh training from the get-go. To think that so many people had been directly eliminated, they must not have anticipated the unforgiving training either. All kinds of protests and outcries fell on deaf ears. IG's rules were rules. At the same time, those remaining understood that here, Chu Si was God. Life and death all fell within the palm of his hand, and nobody was above the rules. Achilles looked at Lai Xin, who returned his gaze coolly. The competition between the two had begun to intensify. Lear seemed to be out of sorts. Again, Wang Zheng had qualified with a respectable result, and he was beginning to attract attention. This was clearly not beginner's luck. Ares College's elite soldier had suddenly displayed considerable ability. Lai Xin was intrigued, she really wanted to get Zhang Runan on her side. Meanwhile, Achilles' team had people flocking to it. He already had 9 on his team, and with the addition of Taro's, only 2 slots remained, and choices were limited. Lai Xin's side was doing very well. Lai Guang, Rastan, Carl, Lin Ruofeng, and Ma Hong made up a 6-person team, with 6 more seats waiting to be filled. With this wave of eliminations, everyone understood that a good leader was essential to last until the main competition. As for Lear, his reputation had fallen a little, to the point where even Luo Fei was beginning to reconsider his options. The Moon team clearly did not need him, and Achilles did not look upon him with favor either. But perhaps Lai Xin was of a different mind. "Leader Lai Xin, I wonder if your team is looking for a runner?" Luo Fei asked boldly. Fatty was being rather thick-skinned. Lear's reputation was not completely gone, after all. Lear paused briefly, his shoulders shaking, but he did not turn back. He was the former champion, but no one was heeding him. Lai Xin surveyed the simpering fatso in front of her mildly. She was, in fact, short on numbers, but she would rather run short than have a burden to the team. The other team members had also begun to look over. Everyone knew that things were coming to a head and was sensitive to the way the wind blew. They knew that a wrong choice could destroy their chances, so they tended towards caution. Who would think that this fatty would boldly approach Lai Xin from the get-go? Could he really think so highly of her? Lai Xin did not speak. There was no need to. At her side, Lin Ruofeng said smilingly, "Luo Fei, we welcome all requests to join our team. But of course, you have to prove that you can pull your own weight, right?" What Lin Ruofeng really wanted to say, however, was, "Weren't you following Lear? Now that his star has fallen, you're abandoning ship? Who would want a deserter like you?" Luo Fei scratched his head, eyeing the Moon team. "I got rid of autos. I'm not sure if that's enough proof for you. I'm not too sure about what the higher-ups are thinking either, to bring back an eliminated participant." At that moment, the hall erupted into a heated discussion. This fatty Luo Fei was vicious to shame autos publicly. Everyone had been wondering who had eliminated autos. Nobody would have imagined that it was this cowardly fatty, or that he would reveal this in front of the Moon team. Achilles' face remained expressionless, but his eyes burned with anger. Meanwhile, Autos had already rolled up his sleeves and was about to walk over, but found himself blocked by Taros, who shook his head slightly. "There will be plenty of chances for reckoning." Lai Xin smiled. At first she did not want this fatty, but Martians admired those with guts the most. "You got some guts to dare to insult the sun god. Kiki, I might not have other strong points, but I'm not afraid of death, and I have courage. That's why I only choose to associate with the strong. I wonder if team leader Lai Xin counts herself among one of those?" Fatty's smile was unabashed. He had made himself clear. He would be loyal to someone capable, but if one was inept, then they have no right to expect loyalty from their followers. Direct. I like it. From now on, Luo Fei is a member of my team. If anyone resents this, they can look for me directly. Lai Xin's words were directed at Autos. Good luck only comes once. Autos was livid with anger, but Achilles held him back with a smile. "Lai Xin, are you prepared?" Behind his simple question was a mountain of pressure directed at Lai Xin. Although she had been prepared, but his aura still intimidated her. However, she would never back down. "Achilles, our showdown is simply a matter of time. Let's just begin now so we won't be confused as to who's the boss in the future." Lai Xin would not back down 1 inch. Both teams began to come forth as well, in preparation for a fight. "I accept your challenge. I hope you do not disappoint me. Also, fat kid. You got guts, but your luck might not be that good." Achilles had clearly marked Luo Fei, and matters would not be laid to rest so easily. The Moon team took the lead and left. Their confrontation would be no meaningless scuffle on the streets, but a contest in the upcoming qualifications to see who was stronger in ability, intellect, and maneuvers. The ghost of a smile hung on the corner of Fatty's lips. The corner of Ato's mouth similarly twitched. Lear, who had been leaning on a wall in the corner, shook his head. "Children playing house." "Taros, I misunderstood you. My apologies. If I can be of any use to you in the future, please feel free to ask." I will not decline, on my honor as a man. In the past few days, Otto's had been unagreeable towards Taro's. The others were in no good position to interfere. After all, Taro's was only an outsider. But now Otto's had clarified, and it was clear that it had all been a misunderstanding. A new sense of good feeling had emerged among the moon side. From now on, Taro's is our comrade. Let's all trust each other and help one another out. Achilles said. Lai Shin's challenge was but a small matter on his mind. It gave him an excuse to act, without being called out for bullying women. Damn, this is all one big show. That fatty is really thick, huh? To publicly call out the moon team. I think Otto's is ready to eat his heart, Yuan Yi quipped. These two are really swaggering about, as if the team leaders could only be chosen from them. TCH, based on what Zhang Shan was unwilling to submit. It can't be helped. From the start, we accompanied the prince in his studies. Lear was worthy of our hopes, but he's always been too proud and aloof. It's a fault of Earthlings. I'm not talking about you guys. I'm just saying he doesn't get along well with people. Otherwise, we would have a chance too, Yuan Yi said.